Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist, nomadcapitalist.com, the most visited website for legally reducing your taxes and going offshore in the world. And in this video, I want to talk about a real-life experiment that I ran 2 months ago. I'm going to share the results of the experiment. This was an experiment that I decided to do to test out what would happen if I did exactly what I advise the average person trying to go offshore against doing. I decided to set up my own company offshore by Googling around, clicking on a company's website, and paying as little as possible. Now, I'm going to tell you all the details of what exactly happened, the kind of service that I got, what the outcome was. But I want to lay out the caveats. I've been researching and now doing this stuff for myself for about 11 years now in the internationalization space. So it's hard for me to exactly run an experiment doing it myself without anyone else helping me, as if I'm someone who doesn't really know what to expect, because I do know what to expect. I know that there are a lot of things that are involved in setting up an offshore company, and so the way that I approach this may be different than someone else. To that point, I think the fact that I had an idea of what I was looking for, I basically knew what everything meant, is indicative of the fact that this was an easier experiment for me to run, and the fact that my results are what they are may be underwhelming for the average person. So, not long before I set up this offshore company, I had given up my U.S. citizenship. And in a geeky kind of, what am I supposed to do now way, I said, I'm going to start a Belize company for no reason whatsoever and move some low-value assets to that. Because I can. And I don't have to fill out the form anymore reporting this company. So that's what I'm going to do. And I said, this will be a good learning experience for me to see what happens and show people. And I said, what, maybe it works out. Maybe I can find that 1 in a million company just by Googling around that I know what I'm doing. Perhaps they know our site because we do have so much traffic. We get all kinds of people who want to work with us, emailing us all the time. I said, maybe it'll go all right, and maybe we'll have someone who can help us. So I went online. I was Googling around, and I know a lot of the people in this space. So again, it's not exactly a fair comparison. But because I don't really deal on the low end, I like to deal with higher end people. I like to deal with people who speak my language, they speak English, and also they kind of understand where I'm coming from. So I don't have a lot of experience in this kind of low price space. But I went online and I compared some different companies, and I compared them from the eye of my experience, where I knew that just setting up the company wasn't enough. There's certain documents that you need to order, there's certain stamps and seals and certain types of stuff that you'll need to make the company actually work. What a lot of companies will do is they'll just get the company form, then if you need that one document to get a bank account, for example, they'll charge you $2,000 for it. Just for that one paper. And so I made sure that I actually got the lowest cost setup with everything that you actually need. I went online, selected a Belize company. I filled out a basic due diligence report where they asked for a couple different company names. I gave them a couple different company names. I gave them my information. I uploaded a scan of my passport. I gave them my home address. I uploaded a bank statement as my proof of residential address. Since the homes that I live in, I don't really get utility bills in my name for different reasons in each place. And then they sent me an invoice, and I went on and I paid with my Visa or MasterCard, and I sat back and waited. And a couple days later, nothing had happened. And so I just sent an email, hey, I wanted to introduce myself. I was the guy who formed the Belize company, let me know what you need from me. Oh, yeah, we had the wrong email address, so sorry, we'll resend it to this address. I said, okay, great. Now, a Belize company is relatively straightforward to set up if you know what you're doing, in that there's not a lot of due diligence requirements. Now, that may sound like a good thing, and from my experiment, it was, because it was like the lowest barrier to entry experiment. Now, if you actually want to use a Belize company, you're going to have trouble banking, you're going to have trouble doing a lot of things because they have so little due diligence compared to even other offshore centers. And so a lot of people don't really want to deal with it or don't trust it. But the due diligence that I had to send into them was nominal. They said, hey, great, we got it within 48 hours of me sending it in, and they said, we're forming your company. But 2 weeks goes by, and I didn't hear anything back. So I sent an email again. I said, hey, I checked both email boxes that you have. I didn't get anything. Oh yeah, we're really sorry. We're running behind. I'll check and I'll get it back. I'll get back to you. So they're coordinating from somewhere in, I think, Europe, and obviously the islands. They have their own people in the islands who are walking in and following this stuff or filing it online. And they got back to me pretty quickly. Hey, sorry, here are your documents. They're attached as PDFs, etc. Fast forward about a month to just recently. I had ordered some extras that, again, the kind of stuff that you actually need to make your company go, because the next step in my experiment was going to be, I'll set up some bank accounts, I'll move some money, I'll hold a couple of, again, kind of low value or digital assets in this company. And I emailed them, oh, actually, yeah, you didn't sign this page. Now, interestingly, like they had told me before, hey, we're all done, we're sending everything out. A month goes by, I have to check in with them. Oh, actually, you didn't do something. I actually went back and checked, I did do it. But okay, I did it again, just playing along. And they said, oh, and we're really sorry we never sent these extras that you ordered. We'll send them right out. And I had to reply immediately because they have an address that was not my residential address on file. It was the address where I was spending time at the time. It's where I'm at right now. I'm leaving 2 days from now. I'm not going to get them. I said, we have to change the address. Oh, well, now you got to fill out this form. And I have no personal problem with these guys, but I am reminded, just as I was reminded trying to go to some low-priced place to fix my MacBook the other day and walked out and bought a new one, just as every time I am tempted to fly on some low-cost airline, I remember how bad it is and I go and book on a real airline. I'm reminded in this situation that 2 months later, I have some documents saying I own a company. But I don't actually have any documents that can help me open a bank account. I don't really know what to do. They didn't really advise me, and basically I had to walk them through every step of the process. This is not for me to have a customer service conversation. This is not a video about why I don't like their customer service, because quite frankly, you get what you pay for. I'm not angry about that. But I think it does illustrate, what happens is that if you want to go it alone when you're going offshore, you're really going to go it alone. I think a lot of people Google around figuring which is the best company. And so you could ask yourself, if you go on these guys' website, what's the difference between Belize, Seychelles, Mauritius, British Virgin Islands, setting up an LLP in the UK, setting up this, that, the other, Cayman Islands. Belize is one of the cheaper ones. Seychelles is one of the cheaper ones. There are different reasons why certain people don't like working with those companies. There are some offshore companies that are viewed more favorably. There are some kind of what I call hybrid onshore offshore companies that have very low tax or have no tax under special circumstances, that are more expensive or come with higher compliance. And so how do you really diagnose which one of those you need? If you haven't spent 11 years doing this, you may not know that Belize is not looked at as favorably by a lot of folks. And I know that there are people who are proponents of Belize who say, yeah, but there's some way to get around it, nobody cares. Why do you want to set up a company that really can't function on its own when you could set up a company that can function on its own? So I knew that, and I chose Belize because I wanted an easy experiment, and I just wanted the lowest barrier to entry. And I still had trouble doing that. Even with relatively little due diligence, I still had challenges doing that. So it took me about 2 months. Now, imagine you're someone who came to me, for example, and you're saying, Andrew, I'm paying $250,000 in taxes every year. Having a 2-month delay for a process that should take about a week, that could cost you $40,000. So did you really save anything by going online and Googling some company that you had to pull the strings? Remember that in my experiment, I know all the terminology, I know how this stuff works, I know how the due diligence works, I know what they're looking for. So I had a bit of an unfair advantage in that regard. But that brings me to the second part. So I'm not a US citizen. I'm not tax resident in any country that taxes my local or my foreign source income. So ostensibly anything that I do in Belize, for example, would not be taxed. What if you are a US citizen? What if you are a resident of a country that taxes you? What if you haven't figured that piece of the puzzle out? Setting up that Belize company in a way that They don't exactly help you even set the company up. You have to beg them just to get your documents. Again, that's not the issue I'm having. That you have that with a lot of companies. I mean, you go to McDonald's and you've got to check on, hey, where's my sundae that I ordered? But really, what happened after I set the company up? I'm still waiting for some of the stuff, but okay, the Belize company is formed. The documents are there. The documents are exactly what I expect them to be because I've seen other documents for Belize companies before. But now what do? They're done. Imagine I have a tax obligation somewhere and I want to make sure, hey, how do I use this Belize company and be compliant with the US? How do I use this Belize company and be compliant with Australia, the UK, Canada, wherever else? It's one thing to, be from, India or China or something where I realize a lot of people don't fully comply with the tax laws because they can get away with it. If you're a Western citizen or if you're living in the West in one of these high tax countries, I don't advise doing it anywhere, and I always advise doing things legally, but I understand that certain cultures have a thing, hey, we don't care, we'll just get away with it. I've had a lot of people in Turkey tell me how they use Belize companies for that reason, and actually I think that Turkey has even started cracking down in a big way on Belize. But if you're living in or a citizen of a Western country, what do you do next? That's the piece that they've just said, hey, here's your company, good luck with it. Okay, right? What do I do now? And so I know the answer to what do I do now. What do I do now is really not much of anything because I've already done all the work to get myself in an optimum position. But what would you do now? So I think this is an important thing that I really preach here at Nomad Capitalist is focusing on the end result. If you are that guy who's paying $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 a year in taxes, what's the cost of delaying? What's the cost of, not getting the problem solved quickly? I had a guy who came to me a while back and said, I set up a company in one of these offshore centers, and for 9 months I couldn't even get a bank account or now a merchant account. And so I'm still using my old company paying 48% tax. And that's cost me a six-figure sum. So I always tell people, this is the cost. And I wanted to see, hey, with my experience, can I get it done any more efficiently? The answer was, is it got done? The answer is that if you know exactly what you're doing, you know what to do next. But the challenge is, even for someone like me, is which companies or which banks are going to accept a Belize company to actually do business? What are my next steps? If I need a merchant account, how do I get that? And then the most important step is, Belize may be zero tax, but am I zero tax? And we have other videos where we talk about the Nomad tax trap and other videos where a lot of people think that they're not responsible to pay tax, but they actually are. And you can run a Belize company, but if you're living in a high tax country, you probably have some laws that say that company is treated as a local company and all the tax benefits go away. So there's a lot of pieces and parts that have to be considered. On a merely structural level, with some pushing and prodding and reminding and checking different email boxes and everything else, I was able to get my company formed. So in terms of getting a deliverable, I was, to a certain extent, successful. But it's kind of like saying, hey, I'm hungry. Okay, great, here's a menu. Well, can I order food? No. We can't help you with that. We just give you the menu. I think that's something that has to be kept in mind when you're going and you're trying to figure this stuff out. Simply, going around and getting one commodity after another really doesn't solve the problem when each different person has to handle things. So, for me, some people say, I want to go direct to the source. In fact, that's what some of these companies that I saw the ad or I saw their website was, we are the source. We have guys sitting in Dominica forming companies. Well, that's great, but what that means is they don't know how US tax works. They don't know how UK or Canada or Australia tax works. It means they don't really know which banks help you, because I've heard so many stories about people who say they can open bank accounts and then they don't, or you're banking in some middle of nowhere place that nobody else wants your money. If you want to send your money to the US, forget it. And so for me, going direct to the source didn't really give me what I would want had I not been the nomad capitalist. Certainly there's always a market for people who want to pay little. For my approach and everything that I do in life is I try and pay what it takes to get the job done, because A, I'm a busy person, I value my time, saving a bit of money here and there, but being miserable, having to track people down just doesn't work on that level. But really the understanding of wanting to be protected. If you have $20,000 to your name, you're probably less concerned about doing things correctly than if you have $20 million to your name. And so obviously there's always a market for lower end commoditized stuff and higher end super boutique stuff, and then stuff in the middle. My advice to you is to just know what you're getting into. Make sure that you're covering all the pieces of the puzzle and realize what the opportunity cost is. If you're looking for help with this and you are a Western citizen, you can definitely go to nomadcapitalist.com. We've got a lot more in-depth resources, as well as an opportunity to actually put that whole puzzle together. Because I think that whole puzzle together is what matters, not just each individual shiny object piece. Thanks for watching my video. Definitely subscribe to our channel. We talk a lot about offshore companies, legal tax strategies, not just the guys in the emerging countries where they just say, I just won't pay. Legally, how to do it legally, how to set it up so where you are covered, how to get second passports, build your freedom, everything else. Definitely subscribe to our channel, and definitely go to nomadcapitalist.com if you're looking for some help.